this is one of those full circle ones where you start and finish with things that we did in the very first learning unit of first semester, or 7321, ties in with the very last unit. It's quite an interesting way of connecting the dots between everything. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this. I mean, it's an astonishing organization. And what we're looking at tonight is the idea of organizational architecture. Now, what organizational architecture is, it's a way of essentially giving life to our strategic plan, and it's having every single bit of element in place to make that strategic plan, make your strategic intentions become a reality. And it's a very, very new concept. And the reason I chose this is because this lives organizational architecture. Everything is congruent with everything else. Everything aligns with everything else. Everything is driven by vision. Everything then takes its lead from the mission statement. And the key thing in terms of organizational architecture is that this has to be perfect, because if this isn't perfect, then the reality is that nothing works. It becomes a paper exercise that doesn't ever translate to anything else. So in terms of your organizational architecture, we talk about it as being a blueprint. It is a document that essentially indicates a how-to. Like a vision and mission always being unique to an organization, your organizational architecture will also be unique. It's the reality of every organization that is world-class, that they'll have their blueprint to give life to that specific organization's strategic plan. And part of this is that it's not just driven from the top. It's a consultative process. It's a consensus process. It's the idea that everyone nods their heads in terms of this particular approach to giving life to the strategic plan. You can look at some of the other definitions there. The key thing about the organizational architecture is that you have to read it from right to left. So even though everything points in that direction, it starts with your stakeholders, and then we work back from the stakeholders. I don't know if you can remember why we use stakeholders as the beginning point here. It has to do with the modern definition of what strategic sustainable success is. I don't know if you remember what we defined sustainability and strategic sustainable success as in the very first lecture. That's a long time ago. It's a bit of an unfair question. Oh, somebody else has joined us. Who is here? Rowan, how's it, boet? Hoe gaan het?
No, I'm very, het gaan goed. It's very good, sir. This is the quietest class I've ever been in.
Yeah, normally my classes are a little bit loud and interactive. Yeah, so unfortunately I'm recording, so I'm still having to behave and be diplomatic and appropriate. Yeah, just the reason we start with the stakeholders is that the modern definition of strategic success is wealth creation for your stakeholders. So we've moved away from the 1990s, mid-90s definition, maybe still would be relevant, that it means you are the most profitable organization in an industry. So everything starts with stakeholder wealth creation, and logically, in terms of this architecture, we would then work back from the stakeholders. Now, if we look at the stakeholders, Obviously, we know that we have internal and external stakeholders. The key stakeholders will always be your shareholders. We know that from a dividend profitability perspective, you have a primary and fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders. And we know that the board of directors, in terms of King, has to make sure that we look after the interests of shareholders. Having said that, when we look at the modern definition of strategic success, every single one of those stakeholders is almost equally important, because if you get your employees and your customers and your suppliers and your communities happy, essentially the shareholders benefit. And it has to do with everything, including social responsibility. So we know who our shareholders are. They're the owners of the business. Obviously, they will appoint some sort of CEO or MD to represent their interests, will keep the organization on track. And then your employees, we know who they are. These are individuals that make a significant difference. In terms of the Amazon example I put in there, is honestly working for Amazon, in particular in the sort of more technical areas. The reality is that you are world class, that you are the cream of the crop. So part of that, if you're going to attract the cream of the crop, your offices look like that. You promote diversity. It is always going to be something really classy, because it has to match the quality of the individuals that you attract. The challenge for Amazon, and we know it's a challenge, that they have been unionized and that they have been facing strikes in terms of the lower level groups of individuals. Customers, again, in terms of Amazon, everything is rated, everything has a metrics in terms of customer service. Your suppliers, if without suppliers, Amazon doesn't exist. They're essentially a hub. Now, we know that there are other areas in Amazon, including the sort of Amazon Prime, etc. But ultimately, without your suppliers, you mean absolutely nothing. And then communities at large. What is interesting is, if I had to change the model or criticize the model the slightest, I would add the natural environment as a stakeholder in there. And I know people say that that makes no sense, but the natural environment is as important as all of that, because you can do business and destroy the natural environment. And for me, to avoid that, you have to consider the natural environment a stakeholder. Having said that, it's not in the model, it's just an opinion. So when we look at the architecture, what is the difference between a capability and a resource, and what is the relationship between the two? Guys, the exams are looming. I'm trying to scare you. What is a resource? What is a capability?
Well, so I would say like a capability is something that the business can do, like manufacture something, and then the resource is the stuff that they use
Absolutely,
for the
spot on.
capabilities.
Yeah, so
Spot
resources
on.
are things we own. Yeah. What capabilities do, they allow you to maximize what you can get out of your resources. So world-class organizations have world-class capabilities. They can use the same amount of resources. They can use the same resources as their competitors. But when you get your capabilities, those things that allow you to maximize what you can get out of your resources, right, the truth is that is what makes you successful, because resources are abundant. Most organizations have the same resources, but some organizations do a heck of a lot more with those resources. I always just think, when Tata, it's not the best example anymore, but when Tata bought Range Rover and Jaguar from Ford, under Ford, both those brands used to run at a significant loss. Tata bought them and made them incredibly profitable. And the reason for that is that Tata can build good quality stuff a lot cheaper because of their capabilities. Yeah, and then your processes, these are all things that you've seen before: your planning, organization, leading, controlling. Essentially, the things that allow us to get people to perform. In terms of work agenda, you guys would have it as management by objectives. I don't know if anyone uses management by objectives, where they work as part of their performance appraisal or performance management processes. But it really is this idea of the roles that you have to perform in the organization. And to do those and perform those roles, you need specific skills. If we look at the skill sets of employees at Amazon, it is absolutely next level. To get into Amazon as an employee is incredibly difficult. It's almost as difficult as getting into Google. I think you guys are aware that Google gets about 1 million plus applications a year, and out of that 1 million plus, they generally appoint about 4,000 people. So getting into a place like Google means that you are the cream of the crop. And in terms of your work agenda, you deliver big. And in terms of the skills and competencies you bring, yeah, you're impressive. There are other processes as well. I think the operational processes, as Ruan's mentioned, that transformational stuff, and then the support processes, the HR, the marketing, the information systems. We've seen in recent times that some of this stuff has also been outsourced so that a business can focus on the core elements of its success. And then your organizational structure. Yeah, what does an organizational structure allow us to do? And remember, it's the first step when we think of planning and then organizing. It's the first step in organizing. What does an organizational structure do? Remember, the term is that we need a strategy supporting structure. And the first year stuff that you will remember is structure follows strategy. So if you intend to be a highly innovative, dynamic organization, your structure, the vehicle that allows you to be dynamic and innovative, needs to be flexible, needs to be flat. We talk about chaotic structures. Now, a chaotic structure is that magic mix between chaos and order. And a modern organization, if you stand on the outside, it looks chaotic because people are so empowered and people have so much freedom. But what brings the order will be the vision and the mission statement and the structural elements that keep everyone moving in the same direction. They're different structures. I think when we look at where the world was versus where it is right now, the Newtonian paradigm, very, very dated. You shouldn't, oh my gosh, and I hope that you don't work for one of these organizations. These are these tall, skinny organizations where you have multiple layers of one person reporting to another, reporting to another, reporting to another. So you have a lot of managers and you have very few employees reporting to those managers. In terms of the term I used earlier, the chaotic paradigm, this is the modern structure. It's flat, it's flexible, it allows for dynamism, it allows decisions to happen where they matter. So levels of empowerment are significant. To also just say, in terms of that chaotic structure, we see it in companies like Amazon and we see it in Google. It really is a company that allows for a significant amount of empowerment. Which one of those structures do you guys work for? Who works in one of those? Ron, waar werk jy under a Newtonian paradigm?
So I used to work at Platinum Life, but I don't know what.
Oh my word! Were you one of the Platinum Life poor people? Oh
Yeah,
my word!
actually,
You know
I
how
was
hated
actually one
you
of the
are in
first.
the world. You know how much people hate Platinum Life.
Yeah, that's why I
Telling
stopped
people
working
things
there.
they don't need.
I stopped working there about 2 weeks ago because I just couldn't deal with the rude people anymore.
No, were you in the call center?
Yes, yes, our call center
Were
agent.
Luxem. That's the only word I have. I'm so sorry, boy.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
one of
no.
those free gifts people.
Yes. Yeah, you've won a free gift. But it's selling stuff people don't need. Because my broker, I was approached by Platinum Life, and my broker looked at it and told me I'm insane.
Yeah, yeah. We only sell to males accidental disability cover, and especially if
Yeah.
you're a teacher, you won't need accidental disability cover.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I know that, but I'm well covered in other areas. Yeah, I don't know how they survive. And your free gift, my goodness me. Um, Leah, and where do you work again?
I work at Red Fox Create. So we're a point of sale
Uh,
manufacturer at least.
but you must be under that kind of structure, the more chaotic, or are you in a traditional narrow
No,
room?
no, more chaotic.
I think
It's
the name of the company suggests chaotic.
really
Yeah. Well,
well, it's
say what it is. Yeah. Go.
Red Fox Create.
Oh, come on, it has to be chaotic. I mean, you can't have creating anything and
True.
be a government department.
No, no, I work for a wonderful company. My boss is just absolutely amazing.
I'm gonna go search you on the internet now so that
Go,
I can look at
yeah,
what you
Red Fox
read.
Creates. It'll probably come up under Red Fox Group because we're a group, but
It comes up as a porn site, man.
no ways. No ways. There's absolutely no way.
Oh, Ron, we have a porn star in our midst, boy.
HP, that's terrible.
That looks
Look at the
bloody
things
impressive, man.
yeah, look at the things we create. It's insane.
Yeah, that is hell of a cool.
Yeah.
That is hell of a cool. And where are you based?
In Stikland, Bellville, at least. Cape Town.
Okay,
You
very,
must check
very
out our
cool.
portfolio. I don't know if our portfolio should be online.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at that
It's
because I
really
like using
cool.
South African organizations. Yeah,
It's a really
I
cool
know this
organization.
is. I mean, if you look at the number of times that you mention your customers and your stakeholders, this is hell of impressive. It's, I mean, yeah, and Moet Hennessy is that's an alcohol, isn't it?
Yes. Moe
Yeah.
Hennessy, we do a lot of work for them. We do
So you talk about
lot
are they a
lot.
customer
So
or are they a supplier?
so they are we have a South African division and then obviously Africa division of Moe
Okay,
Hennessy. And they
okay,
essentially like the agency for them, and we do a
okay.
lot of work for them. Yeah, so they
Now
will do
there's
a
your
lot of.
portfolio.
So yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that is bloody cool, man. That is hell of a cool.
I'll send
I'm
you
gonna
our
look
put.
at that
There we
later.
go.
That is very nice. But that's technically
We actually made that
hmm?
from scratch. That submarine we made from scratch in that container, and we
A
transformed the entire
submarine.
thing. Yeah,
See?
that you had a picture right there.
Oh, this
Uh,
one yesterday.
we did everything over there. A lot of the things were 3D printed, and yeah, we turned that container
Jeepers.
into yeah.
This is blimmin' impressive.
And a lot of these things
Holy
are
nonsense.
3D renders. A lot of these things are 3D renders.
Okay.
That's how creative our creative director. He's insane. Absolutely insane.
Yesterday.
Yeah, no. We're busy creating things for Red Bull now as well. Oh no, I just love our
Okay.
work. I
But that's
absolutely love
definitely
it.
you cannot have this crappy structure there. You can't have the traditional structure
Yeah,
in a
no.
company like that's bloody cool, actually. Right. So if we look at your organizational structure, it is the thing, it's the vehicle that allow us to give life to our strategic plan. It indicates who reports to who. It shows the link between individuals. Modern organizations have team-based structures. They're flat, they're flexible, where if you look at municipalities, they'll have, I think the Maritzburg municipality a couple of years ago had 18 reporting levels. I'm pretty sure it's fewer now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not fewer. So between the lowest level worker, I think it was in the engineers department, and the municipal manager, or what he's the CEO, I suppose, I think there were 18 reporting levels or something ridiculous. I can't believe you guys have that many reporting levels. In terms of divisions, I'm not going to go through this. You did this in first year when you did BMNG7322, the different options in terms of your structure. The one that you might not have done was the matrix structure. Again, it's not as modern as we think it is, although a lot of organizations still adopt this, where you have dual reporting lines. So you from a functional perspective, will report to your functional manager, but you will constantly be working on projects and teams, etc. So you have a line way of reporting, but then you are also constantly allocated to different projects, to different teams, to essentially create something new all the time. And I would be very surprised, Leah, if this is not the structure that you guys are using. Is it something similar to that you are project-based and work in different teams all the time? Or is it more just directly to your functional head?
Yeah, it's directly to our functional head. So I report directly to my director, and then we have our technical team and our designers that report directly to our creative director.
Okay, very, very cool. Very, very cool. And it's amazing how everything happens in Cape Town. All the good things happen in Cape Town. In terms of organizational structure, another modern approach is the virtual approach, where essentially everything is outsourced. So things that we would normally consider support services, from HR to including marketing and public relations, etc., is outsourced. If we think of a company like Volkswagen, to call Volkswagen a manufacturer, in fact, is not accurate, because Volkswagen essentially is an assembler. They assemble things, they Lego block things together, and all manufacturing happens at different outsource type factories, etc. And all that Volkswagen does is they Lego block things together. So we don't really have the idea of modern manufacturers. The reality is that most of your, what we call a manufacturer, in fact, is just an assembler. And then the virtual approach, if you're Volkswagen, your core business is to essentially Lego block things together. The rest of the stuff you outsource to other companies who have as their core business manufacturing and payroll and distribution, etc. Span of control, the number of people who report to a particular manager. We talk about wide and narrow spans. I really am not going to go through stuff that you guys have done in first year. Yeah, so the different paradigms, this is the one that we consider to be the most modern, the chaotic paradigm. It really is the one where you promote an organization that is innovative and dynamic and empowering, and one that uses the competencies, the talents of people who work there. The key thing that binds them together, the thing that brings order to the chaos, will always be the vision, the idea that everyone has bought into a single vision. Google's vision is very obvious. Companies who use this paradigm will always have a very powerful vision, and everyone bound together by that vision, but given significant freedom in terms of making the magic happen. But the next part of the architecture, your systems and policies and procedures, these are those formal organizational arrangements. They are also there to bring some sort of order to the chaos. We know what policies are. They are guidelines. They limit people in terms of authority. I think one of the challenges with Varsity College is how to promote customer service within the context of quite a rigid policy-driven organization. And it's always interesting to think of that as almost a contradiction, because customer service versus policy, they don't always go hand in hand, especially in terms of what we do from a Varsity College perspective, because a lot of it is guided by legislation. So I always find it interesting how our focus is customer service, but the challenge is that you have these very, very strict policies. Fortunately, I consider policies to be suggestions to be ignored. Yeah, I'm being recorded, I must remember that. So in terms of the different reward systems, I think the reality is it's not how much you pay people nowadays. It is rather how you structure their pay. How much is salary? How much is based around bonuses? How much is based around incentives? How much is based around the idea that we provide you with some sort of perks and some sort of benefits. And generally, the modern approach is that we look at canteen or cafeteria style payment systems. And here you give the person their overall package and you allow the person to structure how much must be salary, how much must be part of benefits. And all that person does is they go see a tax consultant so they can get maximum benefit from that. And then other systems in terms of bringing order to chaos, it is how we break the vision statement down into individual objectives. We know that most organizations now will use the balanced scorecard. Can anyone remember what the balanced scorecard is and what the different elements of the balanced scorecard actually are? Who remembers?
To be honest, not really sure.
Yeah, that was last semester. I can't remember.
I love students who study in compartments. Once the semester is over, they take that compartment, they lock it, they throw the key away. It's finance and it's customer and it's learning and growth and it is internal business processes. But what the balanced scorecard allows us to do is it allows us to break our vision and our mission statement into strategies. And we know that we have strategies that relate to customers, to finance obviously looking after the interests of our shareholders, internal business processes, those things that promote productivity, and then obviously learning and growth, those elements that essentially allow us to build talent within the organization. What we then do is we cascade those 4 areas into individual objectives for people in the organization. So if you work in an organization that uses balanced scorecard well, you would have finance objectives as a team or as an individual. You would have customer objectives. You would have productivity, internal business process objectives, and you would have sort of develop yourself learning and growth objectives as well. And then part of performance systems, whether you performance assess or performance appraise every 4 months, every 3 months, half yearly or yearly, I think the reality is most organizations now performance appraise every 3 or 4 months, because you can't wait a year to find out that you haven't been performing. And then policies and procedures, we know that these are guidelines. They restrict us. They facilitate decision making. Most organizations have standard operating procedures in terms of if you want to order a new pen, what do you do when you have to get the pen, and it would go through some sort of supply chain process. And then knowledge, skills, and attitudes. These knowledge, skills, and attitudes essentially indicate to employees what they require as part of their baseline contribution to the organization. Knowledge is always going to be the theory that you have. Skills is the application of the knowledge, and your attitude you decide every day. And I think sometimes the most important out of those three elements is your attitude, because I think attitude makes or break you, and it to me is a hell of an important part of what I do. And then our office technologies, the stuff that we require in terms of PCs, your service technologies, if you think of going to Woolworths and scanning your groceries, and your manufacturing technologies, they've got CAD there, but we see, I mean, in your instance, Leah, it would be your 3D printers. We also see manufacturing technologies in terms of robots and other advances in technology that we've seen in terms of promoting efficiency. And when we think of being a technology leader means, those are the realities. It all translates into customer satisfaction, and the customer satisfaction knock-on effect essentially allow all the rest of those to happen. So again, when I look at your website, it really would suggest, Leah, that you guys are a technology leader to create that. Now your site isn't opening, but you have to be world-class in terms of your technologies. I mean, just the idea of what you create is very impressive. That is very, very impressive. I mean, you must work in a visual wonderland. Is that a fair term, Leah?
Well, our factory is like that. So there's various departments. So if you want to go to 3D side, you'll go there, like the electronics, and it filters down like that. But the office itself, it's actually just very clean. My director is OCD, so we don't have, everything's just very neat. Yeah. But obviously there's very expensive things on the floor, of course. But not entirely like, yeah. Very nice space. We
not like Google. It doesn't look like Google.
No, not at all. But we very, I mean, like you said, nowadays we technology forward. We created for one of our clients, we created a mirror ball head. And essentially it looked like one of those, it looked like those disco ball helmets.
Disco balls,
yeah, and that's what we created for like those promotion ladies, that they put it on their heads. That has like a built-in visor. It has a built-in power bank on the sides. It has these sort of not rotating, but it's LED panels that rotate the words of the brand that you can actually edit.
Impressive, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool industry to work in, honestly. I work with a lot of creatives, and then I'm just this analytical person, but I learn a lot.
We need analytical people. My goodness me, you bring the order to the chaos.
Yeah, that's for sure. Between my director and I, that's what we do.
That's your only job.
Yeah, no.
I think also when we look at organizational culture and the way you talk about where you work, I get the impression that the culture is very, very healthy. And if I listen to poor Ruan, what he said about hating everyone, I can't imagine that your culture was incredibly pleasant. So when we see how culture manifests itself, I think it is the language we use. These are unique words to your company. It makes sense in your company, but it won't make sense anywhere else. Varsity College has acronyms. That to me is our language. Everything is a bloody acronym. And I don't even know what some of these acronyms mean, but everything is an acronym. I think they they're obsessed with acronyms. Yeah. Language that is unique to your organization, Leah, that if you used it outside, people would look at you quite strangely. Words or terms, anything like that?
Yeah, it's a lot of like more creative things than anything else. So we will use FSUs, PDUs, and that's generally like different structures of makeup for a particular unit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a lot.
That's what makes it special.
But our
Varsity College, everything is an acronym. ICE
but
and system. Oh gosh, help me.
no, our ethos essentially, or our culture on the floor is how effing hard can it be, literally, and it literally, I think it's on our website as well. I swear to God, where it's these two hands fist pumping, and both these hands have tattoos all around. That's just our culture. It's something else. It's different. It's amazing.
So those are the symbols that are out there. Yeah. My oldest son writes AI, and he's the main rule in his organization, and it's a little bit of a male-dominated industry. But the main rule is don't be a dick ever. That's the. I don't know how many companies would have that as their foundational value, and I think then if you are, please reread Rule 1 or something. But it's a bit of a male-dominated industry, and they are trying to transform it.
But it really works.
Yeah.
It works in the sense that your clients can identify who you are exactly by just looking at that, so they know exactly what your structure and culture is like.
That's exactly that.
Yeah.
My son had a retreat recently, and I won't say the company, and he said, the first retreat we had, Devin had his shirt off fire dancing, and that's what our company is about. And I was thinking, my son is this math genius, but he's also a fire dancer. He's also an idiot. But and I'm thinking, okay, if that's the culture, my kid with his shirt off fire dancing at a company retreat, I don't know what that means. No, who knows? And then just folklores. These are stories that are told and repeated. The heroes we create, the symbols, the rituals, how we celebrate successes, how we mourn losses. The dress code. I can't imagine that anyone in your place wears a suit, Leah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's sneakers. It's sneakers, it's t-shirts, it's caps, and a lot of our
funky hairdos like yours.
Beards as well, and then funky socks. That's the thing on our floor. Funky socks, weird thing. But
now I have started wearing funky socks at my old age. But Varsity College now, Maritzburg, they're allowing us to wear jeans. I don't know. It's easy, it makes getting dressed very simple. Yeah, and your office layout, and I would imagine your offices would be pretty open plan. Yeah, and then in terms of organizational culture, it summarizes into the term, that's how we do things around here. Now, to just come back to Ruan, I don't think you liked that's the way they did things around there, Ruan. Is that a fair comment, Boya? I think you didn't enjoy that place.
Not at all, sir. Not at all. I hated the job itself. The culture was nice. The only rules we had there was you can't wear pajamas and you must wear underwear. And that's the only rules for clothes.
Oh gosh, then I can't teach right now.
This is recorded.
Excuse me, everyone. This might be my last lecture ever. I think I might have just fired myself. I hope Varsity College listens to this so they can hear what normal people say, not these Yeah, let me carry on from there. And remember, leadership drives culture. An interesting modern model on culture is the kind of tensions that are the kind of tensions that we have in organizations now. And the organization itself is often defined by these elements, and success is often defined by these elements. So organizations, in terms of their focus, that worry about internal harmony, don't do incredibly well, where everything is about the relationships and kumbaya and everyone being happy all the time. External competitiveness, these are organizations that essentially are always going to be at the cutting edge. They're your Apples and your Googles and your Amazons. These are individuals and organizations that drive essentially being the best in an industry. The structure, again, it's the notion of how much flexibility do we give, and essentially how much empowerment do we give versus how much control. Control is often, we see it when people are given narrow job descriptions, whereas flexibility is you get given an outcome and you go about making that outcome happen. You don't get told, do A, B, C, and D. You decide how it happens. They will tell you what it must do. And then means ends. I think the reality is, what do we focus on? Companies that are dated worry about having a list of things to do and a tick box type exercise, where ends companies essentially concern themselves with achievements. They don't care how those achievements are actually realized. And then it gives us that one, and you guys can have a look at it. You should, without a single shadow of a doubt, be able to find your own organization in there. Leah, I would imagine that you would be a market culture. I can't think, mind you, it could also be an adhocracy, but it's going to be one of those two. One of those two that will be your culture. Have a glance at that. Maybe it is more adhocracy than market. Which one do you think it is, Leah? It's one of those two.
I think it's market culture. I really think it's market culture.
Market culture, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. I mean, it's nice that you can identify, because part of this is to show that there are theories that can help guide, and best practices that can help guide. And if you have a market culture and if you want to maintain it, those are the elements you focus on. Those are the things that make you successful. Where my son works, they have that. They have an adhocracy culture. It's about AIs and pushing the boundaries and creating things that had never gone before, that never been done before. And then, I think if we think of where values fit in, we always go vision and mission statement and your value statement. Your value statement would indicate to your stakeholders what the ideal culture is. So we talk about your stated culture versus your real culture. The real culture is what you experience on a day-to-day basis. The ideal culture would always be reflected in your value statement, and your value statement would generally talk to every one of your stakeholders to tell them, this is what you should expect from us. This is how we will behave when we deal with you. And then in terms of, this is now a little bit dated, and I don't like the fact that the textbook still has this in. This is from the sort of mid-90s. Peters and Waterman, they wrote a book, In Search of Excellence. They spoke about what successful and modern excellence is in organizations. And you can see there, I think the only one that I need to explain is this one, sticking to your knitting. Sticking to your knitting essentially means that you stick to your core business. You know your core business. So Eskom, for example, forgot their core business. They became an estate agent, they became a bank, they became their own supplier. I mean, the ridiculous contributing factors to Eskom's downfall is that they forgot what their knitting is, what their core business is. And then just the McKinsey 7S one, and you can have a look at where culture manifests itself and how the values that we have in an organization will drive your structure and your systems and your staff and your skills and your strategy. Essentially, all of those come from your values, and your values would obviously take their lead from the vision in the organization. And that, lady and gent, is that.